Welcome, welcome to a very special First to Know program. I am Paul Crouch Jr., your host. We are going to talk about a very interesting new movie that's coming out, and joining me today are the producer, I guess two producers, right? You both kind of co-produced with that work?
Yeah, we did.
And
we're still friends.
And exactly. And you both were actually in the movie also.
Yeah. We figured make it a family affair.
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly.
I got kids in it, yeah.
Absolutely. But from Newport Beach, John Ward, welcome, my friend.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And from Southern California, Todd Zeal.
Yeah, very good. Thank you.
And now, Todd, let's start with you, because a lot of people may be looking at you going, wait a minute, I recognize that face, if you're a sports fan anyway. But your background, 16-year major leaguer. Talk about that a little bit.
Wow, if they're looking at that picture and trying to recognize my face, they might have issues. But that was back in my skinny Cardinal days. But yeah, I did. I played, at UCLA. I grew up in Southern California, went to UCLA, and was drafted by the Cardinals and spent 16 years in the major leagues in a lot of different places, a lot of different sort of adventures. Ended my career right there in New York with that jersey on right there. So.
And not bad. I mean, you were a good player. 250 home runs, 2,000 hits, 1,000 RBIs. Those are
I stuck around,
decent numbers.
If you can stick around long enough, you have a chance to compile a few numbers. So I was kind of that steady guy that you could, plug in and know that I was going to play 160 games if you gave me the chance. And at the end of the day, I'd have, respectable numbers.
Highlight of your career?
Highlight of my career is the 2000 World Series, just because it was the only opportunity I had to play on that stage. It was the Mets-Yankees Subway Series and all of those things. It's hard to really pinpoint any other thing that would surpass that, except maybe there was a shot that reminded me in 2001. I was still with the Mets during 9/11. It was just passed, obviously, and I had an opportunity to go down to Ground Zero and really spend some time with families. And then we played the first sporting event. The first major event back was the Mets Braves game at Shea Stadium, and it was a really, really memorable moment.
Yeah, very interesting time in history too, obviously. John, 25 years. Now, you don't look old enough to be in the industry 25 years, because you look about 25. You started when you were a baby. But from both sides of the camera, a little background on yourself?
Yeah, I was a kid actor, and my little sister was picked out of a crowd I grew up in North Carolina. My little sister was picked out of a crowd to be Drew Barrymore's photo double. And Drew Barrymore wound up moving into our house, and her mother rented the house next door, and she wound up doing 3 movies with, my sister wound up doing 3 movies with her, and I got the acting bug. One day I went to the set, and it was marker, action, Drew comes through the door and just says, "Daddy, Daddy," in a picture called Firestarter she did just after E.T. And I turned to my parents and said, I could do that. And Dino De Laurentiis, the producer, was right behind me. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I was just a little kid, and he says, in Italian, broken English, "Next movie we will see."
Yeah.
And I was wearing a King Kong suit in King Kong Lives. That was my first role.
Oh my goodness.
And anyway, so I did a bunch of teen movies, and after college, in college I fell in love with Shakespeare and literature, and decided writing and directing as well was a big thing for me, just a passion for storytelling.
Yeah. Christ told parables. That was all he did in the Bible.
Absolutely.
And you guys are modern day parable tellers. Talk
Absolutely.
about that.
I think the thing about parables is very interesting. I'm glad you mentioned that, because that's what compels us. Is, when you read in the Gospels and Jesus discusses things, and when he chose to tell a parable, is usually when somebody asks a very difficult question about the nature of God. And you imagine what that must be like to be Jesus and hear that and think, I know the answer, but that is so complex that he chooses to tell it in the form of a dramatic story. Now, in the story, the point is not obvious. It's illustrative. It's a metaphor. And art can do that. And that's something we feel called to do. And we think it's wonderful to see churches embrace it. In fact, we're screening I Am to over 2,500 churches throughout the United States, Canada, around the world. And churches are saying, we want to be a part of this. Not just churches making them, but churches saying, we want to exhibit them. We want to be movie theaters. But part of parable storytelling for us is the idea that it can illustrate and it can create conversation. And sometimes it can create conversation with people a new conversation with people who are tired of God and don't want to talk about Him anymore. A compelling metaphor can do that.
And I Am does that.
I think so. I mean, I think so, and that's what really resonated with me as well. And as you mentioned, the Sherwood Baptist and going from the church to the public, and we kind of flipped the paradigm a little bit. We're more on the film side, and we said, here's the way we can make a film and give it back to the church. And so that's why we're offering it to churches to screen on 10-10-10 and really be a part of this moment. And we've had overwhelming reaction. But I think what is interesting from our perspective on I Am is that the point, as you mentioned, is not obvious. It could be something different to you as what it speaks to me. And so our hope is, and what we really set out to do with the church screening program, is get people that may want to fill that empty seat, that may not be so inclined to go there, give them a safe environment to come watch a movie and then immediately follow it with discussion. Because whether you like the movie or hate the movie, it's going to prompt some sort of discussion afterwards.
It absolutely is. And again, it's very well done.